She woke up every morning at 6:00 a.m., laced up her old sneakers, wrapped a light scarf around her shoulders and walked. Rain or shine, winter or summer, for nearly 14 years, Mrs. Eleanor Hayes walked her neighborhood trail like clockwork. Neighbors admired her discipline. Her children praised her healthy habits. Even her doctor smiled and said, "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." But no one saw what came next. One autumn morning, while stepping off the curb, her knee gave out. Not from a fall, not from an injury, but from years of repetition. Repetition that wore down her joints like waves grinding stone. Eleanor hadn't skipped a day in years, and yet her legs were weakening, her hips ached more often, her balance less steady. She found herself needing support even just to reach the mailbox, and that's when it hit her. How can I be getting worse when I've been doing everything right? But here's the uncomfortable truth no one told her. The truth no one tells most people over 60. Walking alone, no matter how consistent, might not be enough. In fact, in many cases, it might be doing more harm than good. We were raised to believe walking is the gold standard. It's free, it's easy, it's natural. And yes, walking can be wonderful, but what if I told you that not all movement is equal? That the way we walk after 60 could drain us, not strengthen us. That the same motion repeated daily, without variety, without awareness, becomes less of a miracle and more of a slow erosion. Because aging changes everything. The joints that once bounced back now bruise. The muscles that once supported us now shrink silently. The balance we once took for granted begins to tremble. And if our exercise doesn't evolve with us, then we're not training our body. We're simply wearing it down. There's something profoundly poetic about movement in old age. In youth, movement is instinct. We chase, we climb, we run without thought. But in age, movement becomes a choice, a conversation between body and soul. And what you choose matters more than ever. Because at some point, walking in circles is just that, circles. Motion without growth, activity without transformation. And that, dear listener, is the illusion. Now imagine this. What if there were gentler, smarter, more powerful ways to move? Movements designed not just to keep you going, but to rebuild you from the inside out. To restore balance, to awaken muscle memory, to strengthen the very core of your mobility and your confidence. They exist. They've been tested. And most importantly, they work at any age. But before we get to them, we need to understand the silent dangers hiding in your current routine, and why walking, done the wrong way or done alone, might quietly be holding you back. Because knowing what not to do can often save your body far more than doing more of the wrong thing. Let's look deeper, not into miles or steps, but into what your body actually needs to last longer, stand stronger, and feel more alive. You've seen them, maybe you've even been one of them. A pair of seniors side by side walking the same path at the park, one foot in front of the other, one conversation after another, one ritual repeated endlessly. But have you ever noticed what's missing? No stretch, no rotation, no challenge to balance, to strength, to breath, just motion, comfortable, predictable motion. And that's the danger. Because after 60, your body no longer craves repetition. It craves renewal. But walking the same flat surface every day, it trains your body to survive, not to thrive. Here's what most people never hear from their doctors. Walking, especially in older age, can become biomechanical autopilot. Your brain zones out. Your muscles do the minimum. Your joints carry the load over and over until they crack under the strain. Your knees, they're not designed to absorb thousands of pounds of impact on unforgiving sidewalks without variation. Your hips, they're not meant to swing the same arc for 20 years without resistance or recalibration. And your spine, it begins to collapse inch by inch under the quiet weight of gravity and habit. See, when you're young, walking activates many systems, balance, core, neural patterns. But after 60, your gait changes. The heel strike gets heavier. Stride length shortens, arms swing less. You think you're walking the same way. But you're not. Your nervous system is aging. Your proprioception, the body's sense of where it is in space, is less precise. So you walk more cautiously, which sounds safe, but it actually leads to more instability. You start using fewer muscles. You stop engaging your glutes. Your core stays asleep. And over time, you're walking your way into frailty. It's a strange betrayal, isn't it? The very act that once gave you freedom, now quietly chiseling away at your strength, and no one notices, because we assume movement equals health. But in old age, it's the right movement that saves you. Ask yourself this: when was the last time you changed direction mid-walk? When was the last time you stepped sideways, not just forward? When did you last stretch your arms overhead, twist your spine, rise up on your toes? Because real life demands it. You don't just walk in straight lines. You reach, you balance, you twist, you stumble and recover. If your walk doesn't prepare you for that, then it's just a ritual, not a safeguard. And this is where the tragedy lies. Many older adults fall not because they're weak, but because their movement hasn't prepared them for reality. Their exercise has become a trance, and the price of that trance, a broken hip, a fractured wrist, a fall that doesn't just hurt the body but steals the spirit. So no, this isn't about fear. This is about waking up. Waking up from the illusion that walking is always enough. Waking up to the realization that your body is evolving, and your movement must evolve with it. Because strength after 60 isn't just a luxury, it's your lifeline. But strength doesn't come from more steps, it comes from better ones. It comes from training the hidden muscles, the stabilizers, the breath, the balance systems no one sees but everyone depends on. And here's the good news. You don't have to give up walking, but you do need to upgrade it. You need smarter, safer, more nourishing ways to move, ways that challenge your body without punishing it. Because if done right, movement can still be your greatest medicine. Not just for your bones, but for your brain, your heart, your dignity. In the next steps, we'll explore exactly what those movements look like, why they work, how they reverse the damage, and how you can start, even from your living room, without pain or pressure. You'll see. The journey doesn't end with walking. It begins when you finally step beyond it. There's a quiet turning point in life, not the moment you feel old, but the moment you realize that you must move differently or not move at all. The young chase sweat. The old, we seek healing. And here lies the secret. Not all movement is created equal. Some movement breaks you down, but other movement, it puts the pieces back together. In medical school, they taught us how to diagnose disease, but what they didn't teach was how to preserve vitality, how to guard the fire inside someone who's been alive long enough to earn their wisdom. Because strength in old age isn't built by pushing harder, it's built by moving smarter. So let's rethink everything we thought we knew about exercise. Forget the treadmill. Forget endless steps that pound your joints and tire your soul. You're not training for a marathon. You're training for life, for walking without fear, for rising from a chair without struggle, for dressing, lifting, laughing without pain. And that requires a new kind of exercise, not the kind that burns calories, but the kind that restores function. Doctors today are discovering a powerful truth. Healing movement is not about doing more. It's about doing what your body actually needs. Movements that gently open the hips, that teach the ankle how to stabilize again, that reconnect your breath to your spine, that wake up the small muscles, the forgotten ones, the ones that keep you upright when the world tilts just a little too fast. We've studied hundreds of seniors across continents, the healthiest ones. They don't just walk, they rotate, they balance, they flow, they move like water, not like machines. You see, the body in old age is like a tree in winter. It creaks, it tightens, but it is still alive. And when given the right rhythm, the right nourishment, the right stretch of sunlight, it doesn't just stand, it blooms. So movement in the age of wisdom must be circular, not linear. It must be gentle, not forceful. It must nourish the joints, not grind them. And above all, it must listen to the body, not command it. You don't need to lift weights like you're 30. You don't need to run 5 miles to feel accomplished. What you need is the kind of movement that unlocks you, that softens your breath, that steadies your steps, that calms your nervous system while igniting your core. That's where healing lives. And when you experience that kind of motion, even for just 10 minutes, you'll feel it. Your joints breathe, your back opens, your shoulders drop, your mind clears. It doesn't feel like a workout. It feels like a return to something ancient and right. So what are these movements? They're not trends. They're not gimmicks. They're ancient patterns rediscovered by science, validated by medicine, and proven in the bodies of those who refuse to decay quietly. In the next chapter, we'll walk you through the 5 most powerful movements now recommended by leading doctors, therapists, and geriatric specialists around the world. You'll learn why one of them trains your brain more than your body, why another could prevent more falls than any cane, and why the gentlest one might restore more strength than any gym could offer. Because aging isn't a sentence. It's an invitation to move with meaning, to heal with motion, to rewrite the story of your body, starting now. Now that we've unlearned what harms us, it's time to rediscover what heals. Not all motion is created equal, but some movements, precise, simple, rooted in both ancient tradition and modern medicine, have been quietly transforming the bodies and minds of people over 60. And here's the beautiful part. You don't need a gym. You don't need equipment. You just need intention, consistency, and the right kind of motion. Let's explore the 5 doctor-approved alternatives to walking that thousands of seniors are now turning to for strength, balance, and serenity, without risking injury or exhaustion. These are not workouts. They are rituals of renewal. Imagine standing in silence as your arms move like clouds, your feet planted, yet your body flows like water. This is Tai Chi, an ancient Chinese practice once reserved for warriors, now embraced by the wise. Studies show it improves balance more than walking, lowers blood pressure more than medication, and even slows cognitive decline in elders. But Tai Chi is more than exercise. It is a moving meditation, where every slow, circular gesture teaches your body how to stay upright, and your mind how to stay calm. One movement, repeated slowly, can align your joints, stabilize your gait, and bring peace into your bones. Even 10 minutes a day has been shown to reduce falls, ease arthritis, and restore a sense of inner grace. Now let's step into the pool. Water walking, or aqua therapy, is the forgotten miracle of elder mobility. Why? Because in water, your body weighs only a fraction of what it does on land. That means your joints are protected, your spine decompresses, and your muscles still work hard, but without damage. The resistance of water builds strength. The buoyancy protects you, and the gentle rhythm soothes pain like few other movements can. It's like walking, but without the punishment. Doctors now recommend water walking for patients with osteoporosis, joint replacements, chronic pain, and even those recovering from strokes. It's therapy, it's exercise, and for many, it's the only place they feel truly free again. Think yoga is only for the young and bendy. Think again. Chair yoga brings all the benefits of yoga, stretching, breathing, mindfulness into a format that respects your limitations. No floor mats, no pretzel poses, just you, a chair, and gentle movements that reawaken every part of your body, especially the ones walking forgets. You'll open your hips, lengthen your spine, roll out tension in your shoulders. And most importantly, you'll connect breath to motion, something science now links directly to heart health and nervous system balance. Even better, chair yoga improves lymphatic flow, boosting your immune system naturally. For those recovering from illness or just needing a safe, private way to stay flexible, this is the answer. And with just 15 minutes a day, many seniors report less pain, better sleep, and a surprising sense of joy returning to their bodies. Here's something we rarely talk about. Some of the most powerful movements in elder health are invisible to the outside world. Tiny ankle rolls while seated, Gentle core activations before getting out of bed. Neck glides, hand stretches, pelvic tilts. These are called micro-movements, and they are the secret rituals of the truly wise. Why? Because these movements activate stabilizer muscles, the small, deep ones that walking alone can't reach. They re-educate the nervous system. They improve proprioception, your body's ability to know where it is in space. And they take less than 2 minutes at a time. Done consistently, micro-movements can dramatically reduce joint stiffness, help prevent falls, and rebuild deep strength you thought you had lost forever. This is not flash, it's foundation. Let's talk about something no one wants to face, but everyone over 60 must. Falls. Every year, over 3 million seniors are hospitalized due to falls. Many never recover, but what's rarely said is this. Most of those falls could be prevented, not with walking, but with balance training. Simple, intentional exercises, like standing on one foot near a wall, heel-to-toe walking, or gentle shifts on a soft surface, train your brain and body to stay upright under pressure. Doctors now use balance training as prevention, not just rehabilitation. It sharpens reflexes, strengthens ankles and hips, and most importantly, it restores confidence. Because it's not just about preventing a fall. It's about walking into your day with courage, not fear. Each of these 5 alternatives is more than a movement. It is a medicine, a practice, a philosophy. They do not ask you to fight your age. They ask you to honor it, to listen, to adapt, to move with wisdom, not resistance. And when you do, you begin to unlock a secret. That health after 60 isn't about pushing through. It's about awakening what still lives within you, quiet, resilient, waiting to rise. We often think of exercise as just a physical thing, a way to keep our muscles moving, our joints flexible, and our bodies strong. But what if I told you that the right kind of movement reaches far deeper than skin and bone? That it touches the very core of who you are, your brain, your heart, your soul. The alternatives we explored, the Tai Chi, water walking, chair yoga, micro-movements, and balance training, do more than just protect your body from harm. They heal from within. Science now confirms what ancient healers knew all along. Movement is one of the most powerful tools to nourish your brain. Tai Chi's slow, mindful flow stimulates areas of the brain responsible for memory and attention. Balance training rewires neural pathways, sharpening coordination and reaction time. Even simple micro-movements activate the prefrontal cortex, the seat of decision-making and emotional regulation. And here's the astonishing truth. Regular practice of these movements can slow the progression of dementia, ease anxiety and depression, and even improve sleep quality, a foundation for mental clarity. In essence, when you move with intention, you are rewiring your brain for resilience and vitality, even after 60, 70, or 80 years. Your heart is more than a pump. It is the rhythm of your life, the quiet drummer that keeps your story moving forward. Water walking and chair yoga are gentle yet powerful ways to keep that rhythm steady and strong. They lower blood pressure, improve circulation, and reduce the risk of heart disease, all without the strain of high-impact exercise. But beyond the physical benefits, these movements teach your heart something profound: how to beat calmly amid the chaos. Tai Chi's meditative breathwork soothes the nervous system, balancing the fight-or-flight reflex that can wreak havoc on your cardiovascular health. And when your heart finds calm, your entire body follows, ushering in longevity, energy, and peace. Now, let's go even deeper. There is a sacred quality to movement when it becomes more than exercise, when it becomes a meditation in motion. Tai Chi's flowing gestures, the gentle sway of water walking, the mindful breaths of chair yoga, each invites you into a space of presence and stillness. In these moments, movement becomes a dialogue with your soul. You connect with your body's wisdom. You honor your life's journey. You find meaning in every step, every breath. For many elders, these practices become a daily sanctuary, a place where body and spirit meet in harmony. This is where healing truly begins. Brain, heart, soul, These three are not separate. They are woven together in a delicate dance, each supporting the other, each thriving when movement becomes medicine. The alternatives to walking are keys to unlocking this dance. They heal your mind's fog, steady your heart's beat, and soothe your soul's longing for peace. And as this healing spreads through your entire being, it transforms not just how you live, but how you experience life itself. When you understand this, movement becomes more than a habit. It becomes a sacred act of self-love, a quiet rebellion against decline, and the path to a longer, fuller, more vibrant life. Ready to learn how to make these alternatives part of your daily ritual? How to weave healing motion seamlessly into your day? That's where we go next. Starting something new can feel overwhelming, especially when it comes to our health after 60, 70, or even 80. You might wonder, where do I even begin? Will I be able to keep up? What if I get hurt or make mistakes? These fears are natural, but here's the truth. You don't have to dive into extremes. You don't have to be perfect. You just need a simple, clear, gentle routine that fits your life. Step 1. Choose what feels right. Think back to the alternatives we discussed: Tai Chi, water walking, chair yoga, micro movements, balance exercises. Ask yourself, which one sparks even a small flicker of curiosity or joy? Maybe you've always admired the graceful flow of Tai Chi, but never tried it. Maybe water walking feels soothing and low impact. Or perhaps chair yoga sounds like the perfect way to move gently while seated. Starting with what feels right to you is the key, because joy fuels consistency. Step 2. Commit to small, manageable sessions. You don't need to carve out hours or rush into intense sessions. Start with just 5 to 10 minutes a day. This small commitment builds a habit that lasts longer than bursts of enthusiasm. And as your body adapts and confidence grows, you can gently increase the time. Remember, slow progress beats no progress. Step 3. Find your support circle. A new routine thrives with encouragement. Maybe it's a friend who joins you for water walking, a local Tai Chi class, or an online chair yoga community. Even sharing your goals with family or caregivers can create gentle accountability. Support turns the journey from a solo climb into a shared adventure. Step 4. Use tools and resources. Technology can be your ally. There are countless guided Tai Chi videos, chair yoga tutorials, and balance exercises tailored specifically for seniors. Look for trusted sources or consult with your healthcare provider to find programs that respect your body's needs. No need to reinvent the wheel, stand on the shoulders of experts. Step 5. Listen to your body, honor your limits. This is the most important rule. Each day, check in with how you feel. Some days might bring energy and ease. Others might call for rest and gentleness. Adjust your movements accordingly. Healing is not about pushing hard. It's about honoring the delicate balance between effort and ease. Imagine waking up tomorrow with a clear intention: to move your body in a way that nourishes your mind, strengthens your heart, and soothes your soul. A movement practice that feels like a gentle celebration of your life's wisdom. No fear, no confusion, only a confident step toward a healthier, longer, and more vibrant future. The path may look different than you expected, but it leads to a place of deeper healing and joy than you ever imagined. In the next part, we'll reflect on the bigger picture, why this journey is about more than just movement. It's about embracing a new way of being after 60. Movement is life. It is the silent language through which our bodies speak, the rhythm that keeps our spirit vibrant, and the thread that weaves together every moment of our existence. But here's the wisdom many overlook. It's not just movement that matters. It's the quality of that movement, the mindful choice of how we move, that shapes our health, happiness, and longevity. When we move with awareness, each step becomes a conscious act of love for ourselves. After years, decades, even a lifetime of walking, what if we dared to rethink everything? What if we chose to protect our fragile joints, nurture our brain, and soothe our soul with movements that respect our evolving bodies? This is not about giving up. It's about stepping forward in a wiser, kinder way. Every day we have a chance to renew this choice, to listen closely to our body's whispers, to honor its needs, to celebrate its resilience. When you replace the old habits with new rituals, Tai Chi's flow, the embrace of water, the gentle stretch of chair yoga, you are not just moving, you are transforming your life. You've learned why walking alone isn't always enough. You've discovered the best alternatives, and you now hold the key to starting your own healing journey without fear or confusion. Now, the final truth remains. Movement is life, but wisdom is choosing how you move. This wisdom will carry you gracefully through your years, empowering you to live fully, joyfully, and vibrantly. If this journey resonated with you, if you found hope or inspiration in these words, I invite you to join our community. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and share your thoughts below. Tell us, what movement practice calls to you the most? Have you tried any of these alternatives? Your story could inspire someone else to take that first healing step today. Remember, the path to a longer, healthier life is paved with wise choices and the courage to move differently. Thank you for walking this path with me. Here's to your health, your wisdom, and your vibrant journey ahead.